coming today to learn more about what's fixing to happen in this community over the next 240 days. I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be beautiful at the end. I think it's going to be ugly in the beginning and throughout. But I will tell you this, and that is, I will speak from personal experience with the contractor who the state has hired to do this project, and I don't think you could have a better contractor. I've worked with them in other communities and downtown projects with great success. So I think we'll talk more about them in just a few moments. There's going to be a brief presentation. We'll open it up for any questions that come out of that. So I'm going to turn it over to Solomon. If those of you don't know who Solomon is, Solomon is basically our local engineer with TxDOT, and he is kind of the lead on this project, and he has several representatives here today to present information. So with that said, I'll turn it over to you, Solomon.
I appreciate, echo what Don said. I appreciate everybody coming out. Appreciate just with each other is you have different questions and everything. This is John Haberman. He works with TTI. He is one of our mobility coordinators, partners, and he's helped us out a lot on the I-35 corridor, and is going to help us out here with getting information out. So you may be stopping by your businesses or stopping by your residences up and down there. And then we have our contractor here. This is Cliff and Danny and Juan. And so they'll be the contractor that's out there on the project doing the construction. And so one of the main reasons we wanted to get out here is to let y'all know who to contact. And I have cards. If anybody wants a card, I have cards with me. Stop by afterwards and grab a card from me so you have my contact information. But our goal is to come in and provide the community what they've asked for. And so to enhance the pedestrian facilities, to enhance the roadway facility, and then the drainage facilities too. So we're excited to partner with your community. Appreciate the input from the community and want to continue to have that. So, the contractor has already voiced their desire to be a part of community relations and those kind of things. And so we're excited to have them on board. They've done similar projects as Don mentioned, and so we're looking forward to the partnership between all of us that have an interest in this project. And John is going to present just kind of a little bit of information about the project.
Okay. Good evening. So we're going to hit some highlights and some noteworthy items here and go from there. And this is the retake. Did we introduce you, Ken?
I'm sorry.
Okay, there's Ken Roberts in the corner. He's the Waco District Public Information Officer. And a lot of the press releases or emails might be coming from him as well. So the first thing you want to know is this one is May 6th, which is next week. And you also want to know from where to where. So we're doing from Salado Plaza down to College Hill, from north to south. And y'all, I think, fondly call it Main Street. So that's the work it's going to be doing. So here's the project highlights. There's a bridge near Rock Creek Road that is under Main Street, and it will be removed and replaced with what we call a precast bridge. And we'll talk about that in detail in a little bit. There will be the installation of new stormwater pipe and drainage structures, and that will be augmented with curb and gutter. So when it rains, the water will flow to the gutter, and then from the gutter it will flow into the inlets, and then the inlets have pipes connected to them, which will take it down to the waterway. And then behind the curb and gutter, you have sidewalks and new crosswalks. So you'll have some, what we call those handicap ramps, or just sidewalk ramps in general. When you do cross the street, the street will be marked with what we call crosswalk markings, so that both the driver and the person driving and the person walking will know where the crosswalk is and to be mindful of each other. And then in some locations, if you haven't had a chance to see the plans, the areas of the road north of Thomas Arnold will be getting a bike path, so people can bike up and down or bring their bikes to Salado and bike to all the businesses. And in those areas where there's parking, there's going to be what we call back-in parking. So you pull up and then you back into your slot. That way when you leave, you're looking out onto the road, and then you can see if a bicyclist or something is in front of you and gives you better visibility. So that's a unique feature of this. And then when you couldn't back in or pull in with parking, there'll be some areas of parallel parking. And if you want to know what those specifics are, we could point those out to the map with you. And there'll be some new street lighting to light your way up and down. And then the completion is summer 2020. And so if you did your math, based on what the village manager said, you know, that's 395 days. And so there's working days and there's calendar days. So it's very similar to how my son counts down to the end of school. It's 22 days to the end. The painful days are 22 days. The weekends he doesn't count. So we don't count full calendars. That's the working days. But for you to know that it'll span into the early summer of 2020. Is that fair to say? And so with regards to the bridge, it's over by just north of Rock Creek Road, and it will be a full shutdown of Main Street in that little area. And they'll dig out the old bridge, remove the old bridge, and then they have a 40-day milestone after they shut the road to get it back open. And they'll get it all cleaned out, put some footings in, the foundation, and they'll come in with some precast elements and gently lay it in and tie it all in, and then put the new road over the top. And there will be detours set up around that area when this activity happens. Did I oversimplify the bridge, guys, or is that about right? Okay.
Is that what we call a box culvert?
Box culvert? No, we call it a precast bridge.
Well,
This
what's
one
there
actually-
right now is box culverts is what's there
It's
now.
box.
There will be a bridge when we're done. 18 piers will be going inside the creek.
Okay.
So it is a culvert currently, and it will be converted into a precast arch bridge.
It's right there at Solace Gallery, right there at Solace Gallery.
And then there's a lot of concerns with a project like this with regards to driveway access, and the contract requires that driveway access be maintained into all the properties at all times. Now, what that driveway looks like or what that access looks like can vary at times. It may be a stone road, or it may be some millings or some different things like that, but there will be access in and out. And when that access gets disrupted, we hope to be proactive in making sure you're notified, or at least your town administration is notified, the chamber, and all the Salado Village newspaper. That all gets put out there the best that we know how to do. And then
Is this 40 days, is this calendar days or work days?
7 days a week.
7 days.
40 days from the day we start, which will be January the 5th. It'll be back about February the, remember, exactly, 40 days from January.
And understand when they talk about a milestone, that means there are incentives in their contract that if they can get it done earlier, it's to the benefit of the contractor. So they're going to push to try to beat that 40-day window. 40 days is the outlier.
Yes. And then there's I wanted to say too, in terms of phasing, and we're hoping, I should have asked you this before we started, Cliff, but as we understand things, they'll be starting on the south end of town, and on the west side, which is the Stagecoach Inn side. And what they do then is they'll set up all the barricades, they'll work some warning signs, they'll dig for the new drainage, and then they'll put in the curb and gutter, then they'll put in the sidewalk, and methodically work their way up to Thomas Arnold, stop and come back in front of the museum. Nope.
All the way north.
There goes the false.
Go everything west.
All the way up to
West
Salado
side.
Plaza.
On
Okay.
the west side. And then we come back and start again, go down the east side.
So you do south to north on the west side.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Switches.
sorry,
It switches
it switches
on-
at Thomas Arnold. We start on the west side, on the south end of the project, work our way north to Thomas Arnold, flop over to the east side, north of Thomas Arnold, and go all the way up.
Right.
Come back down to the far south end, and on the east side, go up to Thomas Arnold, and flop again and go up the west side.
Making it like an X, I guess.
That's the plan, anyway.
Right.
Let's hope it doesn't be a Y.
The big, I guess to be proactive, starting in October through the end of December, there's a lot of fun things that happen in Salado. So do you have an ideal of where you might be come October?
We're still putting the schedule together, but I think we've got most of it together. I'm not sure exactly where we'll be. It all depends on the weather
Okay.
right now.
We are scheduled on the 13th, weather permitting, to, switch traffic around with the new buttons and
Okay.
everything.
Okay.
Barrier wall starts going down that week. The first week we set setting barricades and erosion control and all that stuff. The 13th when we really start moving everything in.
Okay. Moving traffic around.
So did everybody hear that? Prep work for the first week, and then they'll start moving equipment in and start moving dirt.
I think we're scheduled to be done with both sides by in December.
Time
That
frame.
way, once the bridge work gets done, we just hire the
Okay. And just so you know, there's a lot of conversations going on for those that have an interest on Rock Creek Road. We just want to make you aware that TxDOT's aware that there's no back egress, no back road, and the only way in or out is onto Main Street. So the TxDOT and the contractor will be very cognitive of that idea and make sure you can get in and out, and emergency services can get in and out as necessary in that general area. And that's usually I like to throw out the high points and then go with questions and comments at this juncture. Yes, sir.
Will all the sewer hookups be done before you start putting fire maintenance on?
Sewer versus
You're talking storm sewer or are
no,
you talking
sanitary.
sanitary?
They have a
Yeah,
sanitary
we'll do
sewer
sewer
project
system.
on.
That's a question for John.
They're supposed to be done by July, but my hunch is there'll probably be some stragglers that'll take place after that. It just depends, but the goal is to be done by July, so there'll probably be some work taking place while this is going on.
John, did you do what they did if you did an incentive clause in the sewer contract?
We're done with our contract. It's now up to the private property owner to connect.
Yes, sir.
On the back end parking, is that kind of a new deal, or is that something that's, where is that? Is that something that you can see somewhere else? I mean, in other towns, or is there?
I know of one, but it's in Indianapolis.
There's, the one I know of is in Austin. They have it a lot in downtown area Austin.
They do?
Yeah.
And anywhere you have, and kind of the thought process behind the back end parking, angle parking, as opposed to the head end angle parking, is that as you're approaching your parking spot, you have a clear view of where everything is. And so as you back into that spot, you can see the spot, you can see the traffic and all that. And so then when you're pulling out, you have a clear view to your left and right, as opposed to trying to back out and look behind you and have cars being blocking you. And so this way you can actually look in both directions as you're pulling out. And so kind of like an intersection where you're nosing out into an intersection, you're going forward. And so that's the goal behind it. I've seen a lot of success in different areas that are highly pedestrian areas, where you reduce pedestrian and vehicular incidents with this back end angle parking.
And there's a couple of other secondary things. When the parents open the doors and the children drop out, that door acts as a barrier to the road, and so they go. And if there's a lot of good times being had in Salado, they can walk by their car, open the trunk, throw all their bags in there, and go keep on shopping. So it has a lot of functionality to it in that regards as well.
Think that Rebecca can.
Yes, right. And if they did bring their bicycles to Salado, they could back in and then take the bicycle off on the sidewalk instead of in the middle of the road as well. Yes, sir.
Is TxDOT or capital excavation have all their required permits, including construction in the creek and the piers that would be done? Are those already in place, or are they still in the process?
questions that I'll stick around. I also have my cards there. Oh, other questions?
In the design, is there any room, in the design for future lane expansion of Main Street at all? Or does this commit all of the right of way, and there's no chance of in the future adding a left turn lane on Main Street or adding additional lanes?
So currently we are working within the footprint of the existing right-of-way. And so realistically, if you were to expand the width of the road, it would require acquisition of right-of-way.
In relocation of the improvements they're about to make.
Right.
I know I asked you this question personally, but just so that everybody else can hear, because of the fact that we're limited on right of way and that the area is growing, and future concerns of Main Street being that we have so much traffic going up and down Main Street, we're trying to make it, good for walk traffic and bike traffic. What is the process with TxDOT, between TxDOT and the village, if that street were to be made a one-way street to accommodate additional traffic and walk traffic?
So it would take public involvement. If there was a desire to do that, it would have to be potentially presented by the community to TxDOT as a proposal. Then we'd go out to, I don't know if it's public hearings or public meetings, I'm not on the design side, so, but basically we go out and we do public involvement. There'll be an engineering and traffic study of some kind to determine what that would do to traffic. And then from there, a proposal could be presented and then probably have more public hearings or meetings to get input.
TxDOT would be amicable to that if the community wanted that.
From my perspective, I'm speaking from the TxDOT area engineer, I wouldn't oppose it, but, you know, I'm not in the design and I'm not in the environmental, and I don't know from that perspective if there's other things that I don't consider besides just, I mean, I like to call myself a construction engineer, I just common sense, right? I don't know all the rules, but I know the construction rules, but I don't know all the design rules, but I'm not opposed to, we have circular areas like that in different areas where we have one-way roads that parallel each other, so.
Also, you have streetlights, you said, are they gonna be on both sides, or are they gonna be like one and then alternating, or?
So they go down both sides of the roadway. The majority of the roadway, I was looking at the plans, there's a small section at the north side where it's just on one side. As you come into where it kind of swoops back around to tie into the frontage road. I saw on at least a couple of pages, they were in the same general vicinity across from each other, maybe offset just a little bit, but not a whole lot, so. Without looking at every specific page, I can't answer that one as well as I like to. Sure.
There are a number of events that take place all year long. Will consideration be made to make it more accessible to people who are coming here for an event, so they're not fighting the,
Sure, of course, yeah.
is TxDOT aware of all of our events?
I feel like we've partnered in a way that we understand what the village needs, and we're gonna continue to partner with the village, and if there's things, to make sure that we are, building what the community wants.
They've developed a timeline and an action plan for this project to try to avoid as much of those as possible. And the good thing about it is they've got specialists on staff to help mitigate those that may pop up in between that they didn't plan for. So they're very well aware of it. And quite frankly, from the beginning, Kathy, you can attest, they've been very sensitive to that to try to minimize the impact on both the events on Main Street as well as the adjacent streets.
Some people have asked, and this is probably with the city, if they drive a golf cart on the bike lane, is that legal? Do they need to pull over and get out of the way? Do we know yet?
I would say that the bike lanes are meant for bikes and are supposed to stay for bikes. And so they would be kind of a protected zone for bikes. You're not going to park and block in them. They're going to be set up such that they can carry that traffic. The golf carts need to stay. Obviously, when they're able to drive and not off to the right side of the road to let other vehicles go by them, they're supposed to stay in the main lanes. and obey traffic laws. And I stress and obey traffic laws. It's gonna be, just know this, it's gonna be a little rough and rocky, and that there's no one's gonna sugarcoat that. But the great thing about it is, and I will tell you, they've done a lot of planning on this project, and they're trying their best to work through it and to go as smoothly as possible and to try to minimize the impact. It will have an impact, but they're gonna do that, and they're gonna be very careful about that. They're breaking things down to the point that weekends will be good, normal weekends in this area. They're gonna wrap things up in a timely fashion. There will be some night work that's gonna take place, and I think that'll be minimal, but I think there's gonna be some night work. You heard about the bridge work, and that's 7 days a week, and their goal is to get out of there as fast as possible. They want to keep that road closed as little as possible. With the exception of that minimal closure area right there, there will be at least one lane of traffic open at all times during construction. There will be flaggers out. There will be proper barriers. It's not going to be real pretty during the construction process, but the reality of it is it's going to be a little bit shorter than they originally talked about as far as the construction window, which I think is good. And I think the other aspect of this thing is it is a priority project for TxDOT, and they've worked very well with the city, and we appreciate everything they're doing for us in this. I think it's going to be really nice when it's done. Just bear with us and be patient.
Yes, sir.
Don, the construction on Main Street sanitary sewer went very well in my opinion, and I was impressed with the general contractors' cleanup standards at the end of the day, so that it minimized a lot of dust and a lot of concerns with people going up and down Main Street. Is it reasonable to expect that under this, I know doing the utility construction is a little bit different than sidewalk and the rest, but to have that same kind of standard?
I'll let the contractor address their finish out at the end of the day, how things are going to look and things like those lines.
Okay.
Y'all want to talk about that?
Every day when we get done, we'll stockpile it, clean up the material that's in the roadway here, and call it to a site, which we're working on right now, at the north end of the property. So it'll be cleaned up pretty much every day.
They're going to be trying to communicate in advance with the various businesses as they work their way down to give you a heads up. It's what's going to happen as far as their access goes to get on and off the properties. Their goal is to not restrict access to your property. It'll be kind of like the wastewater. There are going to be times where it'll be a little tighter than usual, should I say. But their goal is to try to keep driveways open and try to work with people as much as possible. The thing that's going to be a little bit different about this project than the wastewater project is we in the wastewater project were in large part off to the side of the roadway for most of it. In this situation, there's going to be some roadway work, and so you need to know that. They're going to be in the asphalt in some areas. So just be aware of that. And it's going to slow traffic down a little bit, too. So, but they're out of your way on the weekends and they're out of your way on the holidays.
Don, you talked about being in the asphalt, are you gonna resurface the whole road?
You want to talk about the finish out on the surface, Solomon?
Yeah, so we will come back and resurface the roadway. Now, we won't touch the long bridge, but beyond that, the roadway will be resurfaced.
Asphalt,
What's that?
asphalt?
Yes. Is it thin overlay
I
mix?
think it's Tom.
Yeah, it's a thin overlay mix, so it'll be a new layer of asphalt over the whole thing.
It lets the water run through the asphalt where you get more.
No,
speed.
it's not the POC one, please.
No, but it's the Tom, yeah, that's right. Tom, yeah.
Yeah, that's not that one.
About an inch and a half, is that what you're thinking of?
Sorry, what?
About an inch and a half, is that what you're thinking of?
No, it's less than that. So we have new mixes that we've developed that we can go a lot thinner than that. So we don't have any, structural issues with the roadway. It's in order to resurface it. And I believe it's a half an inch or 3/4 inch.
Good luck with that.
Half inch. It's a half inch thin overlay mix type that. We've had a lot of good success with that mix.
Really?
Yeah.
Correct.
So we've started using it within the last couple of years. Done a lot of research on that, a lot of industry upgrades to those mixes.
From an environmental standpoint, I know some of you may have a question about that, and that is the state, as you can well imagine, environmental is an issue and a significant issue with them, much like it was with us on the wastewater project. They have environmental consultants who will be doing constant site modification and site monitoring. There are areas that have been identified that are off areas. They're going to set the controls in place to try to keep any type of runoff issues, under control and out of the springs, and trying to keep the salamanders protected. So you're going to see some significant silt fencing in the area and some significant protection efforts underway through the project, particularly around the creek. So, but it is monitored. That, in fact, was one of the delays in the project in getting this thing going, was they were working through and trying to get through the issue as far as setting up the plans on how to deal with any environmental issues that are out there, such as voids and things like that, just like we went through with wastewater. And knock on wood, we didn't hit anything with wastewater, and hopefully they'll have the same luck.
Is there anything special being done? The Royal and Main intersection is probably the busiest intersection in town. Is there anything special going on there?
We define special form.
Well, turn lane or anything of that nature.
No, there's no added capacity. Yeah, so we're not adding turn lanes or center turn lanes or anything like that. Or turn lanes. Once again, without taking property, we can't expand.
There will be sidewalk and pedestrian sidewalk and ramps, though, at those intersections for ADA access.
Will there be any opportunities for paid wayfaring signs?
For what?
Paid wayfaring signs, like pre-exit here, you have like the Taco Bell or something like that. Will there be any opportunities for that in the state right away?
So I would have to get with our traffic engineers on that. I definitely don't know all of the wayfaring rules, and if they put in my plan, they'll build it.
There was discussion, so John, there was discussion in the design process about if there was budget left, that they could potentially look at maybe doing some signage along those lines and working with us on that. So they know our interest in that. Is that a yes? It's a possible, not probable.
So like what he said about Royal and Main, is it still gonna be like where that access, that like, it's really kind of a yield?
No, it goes away.
So,
Goes away?
right, it'll have curb and gutter there. So it'll be a defined lanes.
Is there any talk, will there be any talk to having like, I don't know, having a four-way stop there?
Ooh.
If an engineering study is requested, you're not, okay.
I'm just, right now, it's a problem. And I think a four-way stop would probably alleviate a lot of that. That's just me, I don't know. It would slow everybody down right at that intersection.
So on a TxDOT roadway facility, if there is a change in condition, that would have to be supported through an engineering analysis.
Our hope, just so you know, is that with the improvements, it's going to have a modification on the traffic pattern and traffic flow in that area. From past history, you see that. It's the same thing with the parking. Someone's asked, are we going to lose parking or are we going to gain parking? Well, you're going to actually now define parking. And once you define parking, you may actually gain some, even though there's the number count shows maybe a slight decline. There could actually be a decline, because right now the way it is, it's the first guy in line sets the pace for everybody else. And so with the definition, you may actually see increased parking, and from a flow standpoint, with lanes defined, with things properly marked, with curb and gutter, with organized parking, it may actually improve the traffic flow patterns and make things a little bit safer.
I asked you this question previously, about that ditch, that drainage ditch. So when you're putting, because we're on the north side up here by e-bikes, and when you put the sidewalk through, with looking at that drainage ditch the way it stands, are you planning to put up any sort of barrier so we don't have anybody falling into that ditch again?
I have to look at that. I told you we have to look at the cross officers that are out there on the ground. You know, the industry is trying to find ways to alert our workers. There's even new things where intrusion alert systems have been set up, and the barriers basically alert when a vehicle intrudes into the work zone, and those kind of things. But if we can just get awareness out there of how important it is that we're all paying attention, I think the biggest thing that goes into that. So appreciate y'all passing the word and being cognizant of the work zone. So, and I'll stick around, and John and I'll be here, and I have cards. Feel free to stop by and talk.